Today I'm meeting with Donald Piatt. Don is the finance director for the town of Cohasset. He started in 2017 and will continue through 2020. We're going to learn a little bit about what he does and hopefully a little bit about himself as well. Don, pleasure to have you.
You as well. It is Piatt, by the way.
Piatt, I'm so sorry.
It's all right.
This isn't the first time I've done it, unfortunately, but let's just get to know you a bit. Tell us a bit about why did you choose finance as your career?
So finance, I went to Northeastern for business administration. Initially went for concentration in entrepreneurship. Wanted to maybe open a small business, something along those lines.
Yeah.
And then I had my intro to accounting class, and I just really liked the professor, and he sparked my interest in accounting. So I chose to do a dual concentration. And then during the co-op program, my last two internships were with a CPA firm that does municipal auditing. So it just was kind of a natural progression from accounting to my internship to now I'm on this side of the table doing the work for the town of Cohasset.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, are you originally from the area, or where are you from?
I'm originally from Plymouth.
Okay, so not too far off.
No.
And then when did you come to Cohasset?
Cohasset was 2 years coming up on this November. And I was in the town of Stoneham for about a year and a half before that.
Now, what kind of experience or education do you have to have in order to make well thought out financial decisions for the well-being of the town?
Well, municipal finance is really something that isn't taught in schools. The Mass Municipal Association in Suffolk are partnering to do a lot more programs for municipal finance and governmental leadership, but I'd say experience really is a big part of it. So understanding town government, kind of understanding the processes, what's going on in town, the services that are provided, how you have to pay for those services, definitely having a finance and accounting background, or finance or accounting background is needed, for the accounting side, statistics, budgeting, things like that.
Right.
But definitely the experience is a big help.
Yeah. And can you sort of walk us through your day-to-day duties, what you do here?
Yeah, I mean, day to day, I'm focused on the assets of the town, either reconciling receivables and cash on a monthly basis, a lot of forecasting and budgeting, looking at budget to actuals each month to kind of see where the departments are. Day to day really depends on what's going on and what is due. There's a big push around certain times for the budget process. That could be 6 months worth of work just to get to town meeting, being involved in the capital planning process, involved in the PEB committee, which talks about health insurance and the other post-employment liability that the town has, and trying to come up with a funding policy for that, and a number of state reports that need to be done throughout the year.
What of your duties do you think maybe town residents don't quite know of that they should be more aware of?
I think probably the budget process itself. If the residents don't really understand, I think that's definitely something that they should look into a little bit more. We put a 160-page budget document on the town's website. Kind of goes through how we go through that process of putting it together, what goes into it, and really all the pieces that go into town meeting, what they're actually voting on.
Yeah, right. Now, was there any inspirational persons you had who got you into this work, or people you look up to?
I'd say for 10 years I worked at Powers and Sullivan. They're actually our town's audit firm now, but I worked there for 10 years, and I'd say they were a big inspiration. Jim Powers definitely just pushed me to continue in this field, and I'd say all the experience I learned from there is very valuable to this side of the table now.
Yeah. And now, before Cohasset, you worked in Hanover as well, right?
Stoneham.
Stoneham, all right.
Stoneham, yep.
We got that wrong. You worked in Stoneham. So what brought you to Cohasset, and what are the sort of similarities between the two towns?
So my wife and I bought a house in Plymouth where I grew up, and we were living up in Woburn at the time when I was working in Stoneham. So I was looking for some opportunities on the South Shore, And Cohasset and another town were two that I interviewed with, and I chose to go with Cohasset, even though the other town was much closer to my house. Partly because of Chris Sr. and my interactions with him. I knew he'd be a great town manager to work for, and that he'd be supportive and just an easy guy to work with.
Yeah.
And that's really key. Town managers or town administrators, when you have a good one, it makes your life that much better.
Yeah, right.
Similarities, I'd say there's more differences than similarities.
Yeah.
Here we have a strong town manager act, and everything is funneled through the town manager. So
Right.
selectmen committees are really looking for something, gets funneled through the town manager and then down to the departments. Other community was not as easy to work for.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's good to hear. So Cohasset has earned a AAA bond rating. Now, can you first explain what that kind of means, and then how does a town achieve that?
so AAA bond rating is the highest rating a town can get. And there's really 4 factors going into a bond rating. The first factor is economy. How's your local economy, the global economy, home values in the town, demographics. You also have management. So do you have strong managers in place in the departments? Do you have best practices in place, policies and procedures, financial policies? The next one would be financial, and that they're looking to see if you have your financial policies, what do you have in your reserves? And they want to see, 15%, say, of your annual revenues. Are you close to that? That's just one metric of financial. You want to make sure you have a structural balance, that your recurring revenues and recurring expenses are pretty close, that you're not relying on one-off revenues to fund your budget. And then the last piece is long-term debt and contingent liabilities. Really looking to see what your total debt is and your other obligations like OPEB, pension liabilities, and seeing that you are actually managing them. A lot of towns are not really focusing on OPEB yet. Cohasset luckily has been. So us actually going through that process of funding each year, coming up with, we have a PEB committee, as I mentioned before. Rating agencies definitely see that as a positive when they go through their analysis. And those 4 are really, they're weighted all differently, and the agency goes through a whole process based on a interview or 2 that they have with management, myself, and they come up with their rating. And really the way to keep it is to continue with those best practices and making sure that your reserves and everything else are up to the level that they should be, and to continue monitoring debt and the other liabilities that we have.
All right. Now let's get to know you a little bit more. What is the best part of your job that you always look forward to doing?
The best part of the job, really, working with the people that we have here. We definitely have a town full of dedicated staff that are really looking to do the best for Cohasset. I have a great assistant who knows her job in and out and makes my life a million times easier. So really, I'd say it's the people that I would get to work with.
Yeah. And what are some of the challenges that you face?
Not too many challenges. I'd say mostly just my time, trying to everything kind of going on, getting pulled in a number of different directions, and trying to make sure that I'm allocating the time necessary to either complete tasks or make sure that we're on target for certain other obligations that we have.
And if you weren't doing this, what would be your second career choice?
I'd say probably consulting. Doing consulting for cities and towns. Now that I have the audit experience of auditing municipalities and now being on this side doing the day-to-day, I think that would probably be a good second choice.
And when you're not in work and you're with the family and things, what do you enjoy doing, like for hobbies or just to enjoy yourself?
Hobby, spending time with the wife, friends and family, going to the beach, playing golf as much as I can get out there, and then coming up, fantasy football.
Yeah. Well, to conclude, is there any message you want to just give to the town, the people of Cohasset?
I look forward to many more years working for you, and yeah, that's it.
All right, fantastic. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
Today I'm sitting with Ellen Maher. Ellen is the new chair of the school committee board for Cohasset Public Schools. She joined in spring of 2015 and then this past May was promoted to the chair. Ellen, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, Jack. Good to be here.
So let's just start. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what your career is outside of the school committee?
Sure. I work part-time, but it's really a full-time schedule. Currently, I've been doing for the last 12 years, I work with a U.S. Customs broker, international freight forwarder. It's very interesting, a lot of interface with U.S. CBP, the FDA, agriculture. We clear goods through customs and we get them delivered to our customers, and we do everything from art supplies to food products to medical devices. And before that, I worked for 22 years in the shoe business as a retail buyer.
Interesting. So are you originally from Cohasset or from elsewhere?
No, I've been here since 1966.
Born and raised.
Since I was 4 years old, yeah, so everyone knows how old I am now, but that's all right. Graduate of Cohasset High School. My husband graduated from Cohasset. Our siblings, his 4 and my 4, all graduated from Cohasset, and our 2 kids did as well.
Nice. So when did you decide to run for election for the school committee?
So my youngest son had graduated in 2014, and during his high school years and my older son's high school years, so I had 8 consecutive years, I was very involved with booster groups, football, basketball, I'd help out baseball or hockey. I served on school council 1 year, and I liked being involved and I liked volunteering. And then with them out of school, it was a little weird to still be involved with boosters. And I've gotten some comments from people in the community to say, why don't you run for school committee? And I talked it over with my oldest son who was employed by the district, if he would be all right with that. And he said he was. And he said, Mom, you really need a good project. So he said, why don't you go for it? So I did.
Yeah. And so what are some of the responsibilities that the school committee deals with?
Primarily our oversight, since the Education Reform Act of 1993 is focused on budget and policy. Mm-hmm. So we work with the district leadership team on the annual school budget, from everything from the paper clips and textbooks to the staff and utility bills. I mean, it covers soup to nuts. The other area is policy, and the school committee develops policy, which is the template for the district to establish their operating protocols and procedures to make sure that they support the policies.
Mm-hmm. And how is being chair different from being a regular member?
The chair basically runs the meeting, opens it and closes it, is the point of contact for the media, speaks for the committee at the appropriate times. The chair works. I was just working with Superintendent Sullivan on setting next week's agenda. That's another responsibility of the chair. And we work with Superintendent Sullivan, and I also meet with the chair of the Board of Selectmen, Kevin McCarthy, and Chris Senior. We have a monthly update meeting just to share what's going on between the schools and the town.
Who inspires you most when you're working with this board and when you want to see change in the school?
Let me think. People in town inspire me. People who are selfless volunteers, like Dan Leahy. He goes to every event with his camera, of which I have tremendous lens envy. He has great equipment, and he just goes to different events around town and takes photographs for kids and families and puts them up there and captures the moments that those families might, or those athletes or those students might not have otherwise. And he does it without asking for anything or even a thank you. He inspires me. Students inspire me when they get to the point where they get over the hurdle, I never thought I could write, but now I'm writing, or I never thought I could figure out that algorithm, and now I can do it. And the athletes inspire me here. As you know, there's tremendous record of success here in Cohasset athletically, and I love to see the student athlete who's maybe a junior or a senior who might not have been so good as a freshman and a sophomore, and then just kind of reach their potential and realize that they have talent, they have ability, they have desire, and they can contribute to their team. Those are the kinds of people that inspire me.
Yeah. And now Cohasset is a very highly rated public school. What are the things that you try and maintain, and what are the things that you think could use improvements?
We never really want to maintain. You know, you always want to look to improve, whether it's a teaching technique or it's how a schedule is done, how can it be better served for the students and the staff.
Yeah.
We had Kate McIlharney in last fall for an educator spotlight, and she talked about how she tweaked her teaching technique in her AP class, and how it impacted the students and how they performed better just by making those subtle changes. And I think that there's all of us can improve by making some subtle changes or some more overt changes. So maintaining really kind of isn't in my vocabulary. We can always do a better job.
Yeah.
I forgot the second part of your question, I'm sorry.
And you kind of answered it as well.
Okay.
It was, which parts do you want to improve?
I think sometimes, and this is not news to the community, sometimes, you know, because we're so small, we have tremendously academically achieving students at the highest level of performance.
Right.
And then we have students who are struggling, and we have a tremendous special education department that supports them and assists them to get the things that they need to achieve their best. And sometimes I feel like the kids in the middle kind of get overlooked.
Yeah.
Someone who might be in a CP class, who with a little encouragement could get to an accelerated class, or who could, you know, do their best in a CP class. I think sometimes those kids are overlooked a little bit, and that's my personal opinion. Nothing we've defined as a committee.
Yeah.
And so I think if we can, you know, just keep focus on all the students, you know,
Right.
We can improve.
Yeah. And now one of the big debates happening right now in terms of schools is start times. For example, the idea of starting school later for the students so they're more awake. Countries like Finland, schools in the US are trying to implement it. What are your thoughts on the matter, and what are some of the obstacles in making this potentially happen?
My thoughts are, I took a rather conservative viewpoint of it. There is science behind it. We've been studying it as a district for well over a year, led by a very motivated, impressive, articulate parent group that has actually, from a year ago, put together, you know, surveys and the data and the statistics, and have brought in speakers on the subject. I think you need to stay tuned to our meeting next week to find out where Cohasset goes with start school later. I think it makes sense now that I've seen all of the data, but it's, you know, there are logistics, bus routes, you know, some would say that in a small town like Cohasset must much be easier, you know, to manipulate your bus routes, but it's much more difficult with only 7 buses compared to a district like Duxbury that did it a few years back, and they have 21 buses. So you can move around 21 buses a little bit easier
Right.
than you can with 6 or 7. So I think we're getting there. I think it's something that we need to evolve. We need to, you know, take the science at hand and make it work for us.
And now, in the past year was a little rough for the whole community. When controversies occur, how does the school committee sort of deal with that, and how do you keep the school's agenda going while at the same time dealing with some of the more unfortunate issues facing the community?
Right. Well, sometimes the issues are out of our control. Sometimes the content of the issues are things that we can't speak about for a variety of reasons. I think the important thing is, and I think we've learned as a committee, that we need to listen to the parents. We need to hear them. We need them to understand that we appreciate their concerns and their point of view. Even if we can't respond to it, it's very important, I think, when when parents come in to speak, that we really actively listen to what they have to say. And it doesn't matter to me if your child's 27 or 17 or 7, if they don't feel safe. So we have to acknowledge that that's how parents feel.
Yeah.
You know, they feel fearful, you know, and it's an emotional response. And they feel hurt when their kids are hurt. So we have to acknowledge that and I believe very strongly in that. Simultaneously, we do have an agenda, and we do have business to conduct. So it's that balance of listening and letting people know you hear them, and then moving forward positively and transparently.
Yeah. Now, say if a parent has any ideas from improvements or just something they want to talk about for the school, what's the best way for them to bring that up to the school committee?
Well, it kind of depends upon what that is, because again, if you go back to what our charter is, it's budget and it's policy. So that's interesting, because that was one of the interview questions we had for the principal candidates, is how would you handle a parent group that has an idea for curriculum? If that were the scenario, as an example, we would send them to the principal. Okay, they have to, they should follow the chain of command and bring their ideas forth to the principal. If they have an idea on a new policy, or they want to review the budget, or they want to make a donation or a gift, that would come before us.
And now let's just get to know you a little bit. Outside of, work in the school committee, what are some of the things you enjoy doing with your family, for instance?
With my family, well, they're all boys, so that's, I don't play football with them, no. I love the beach. I love Cohasset. In the summertime, you can find me on the beach. My brother has a boat. We like to go boating. We just actually like to hang out at home sometimes, because one lives in South Boston and one just moved home. So, the time we can get together is kind of precious to me, especially as they get older, because time goes by too fast.
Yeah. And is there anything we missed about the school committee that, for instance, you think people should know, or that the public might not be that aware of?
I think it's an honor to be elected and serve on the school committee or on any other elected board in the town of Cohasset. It comes with, though, a level of responsibility in terms of you take an oath of office and you swear to uphold the duties and responsibilities of the position to which you were elected. And I take that very seriously. I would encourage people to become involved, whatever it is in town that you're interested in: planning board, board of selectmen, school committee, board of health. There are so many opportunities to volunteer and give back. The town runs on so many volunteer boards and commissions that it's, as you know, with the cable commission, it's a very rewarding experience, and you get to meet people that you might not have met, because maybe your kids aren't the same age, or you don't hang out in the same neighborhood or whatever. It feels very good to be able to contribute in a small way to the town.
To conclude, is there any message you want to give to the town?
I'd like to thank all the people I've served with on the committee, from Mary McGoldrick, Jean Mastino, Amanda Zani, Barb Steffen, and I'm sure I'm forgetting people, to the new members that we have, Paul Carney, Ashley Coleary, Jen Madden, and Craig McClellan. It's a unique and diverse group of parents and of folks that have kids at different ages. So it's been a great experience so far. We have a lot of great work ahead of us.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Ellen. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Jack.